Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Well, despite opposition from both sides, President Donald Trump seems to be trying to keep as many campaign promises as possible. And get this, the media is actually trying to spin this as if he is a man obsessed. They say he seems obsessed with completing as many of these campaign promises as quickly as possible. Imagine that, a politician who actually follows through on their campaign promises, somebody that runs for president, makes a lot of promises to the people, and then gets to work as soon as possible to try to make good on those promises. Of course, people are freaking out because this is going to put their poor quality of work under the microscope. So many people saying, wow, you know, he's getting so much done in about a week. And what's with all this gridlock now? I think that those days of gridlock are going to be over. Donald Trump has said he's going to do his very best to work with both sides and also to, you know, keep his promises to the American people. Now, he was speaking with Fox News' Sean Hannity, and he took a very tough stance. He said, you know, he made it clear he wants extreme vetting in regards to people who are going to be coming into our country. He says it's not going to be easy for people to come in anymore. He talked about defending our nation. He said he's not willing to gamble with the lives of our servicemen and women. He also mentioned how the FBI currently has over 1,000 open investigations into cases of terrorism. He said, we're not going to take any chances. The wall is necessary. They want a serious wall. And then on the topic of SCOTUS, Trump also plans to announce his Supreme Court justice decision next Thursday. He says it's going to be a great choice. And of course, Donald Trump has also said, you know, I want to have Department of Homeland Security, ICE, these other agencies to start releasing reports on the amount of illegal, the crimes that are being committed by illegals in this country as well, because people have no idea what's actually going on because those numbers are hidden. He's wanting to put this information out there to let people see what we're truly dealing with rather than trying to downplay the threat from the JV team or the criminal illegal aliens living in this country. But another campaign promise was draining the swamp. And it looks like that is happening, whether Donald Trump is doing it or we see people, senior officials resigning as well because they don't want to work with his administration. David Knight has more.
Bernie Sanders and 11 other senators have penned a letter to President Trump accusing him of sowing a culture of fear among federal employees. Now, I don't know if this was Thomas Jefferson. It's been attributed to a lot of people, but remember the quote, when the government fears the people, there is liberty. When the people fear the government, there is tyranny. And we have been living under the tyranny of a federal bureaucracy for too long. I have absolutely no sympathy for these people who say that they're concerned they're going to lose their jobs. There's going to be hiring freezes as well as reductions in workforce. One of the worst government bureaucracies we have in terms of coming after the American people and extending to an absurd degree their power over our lives is the EPA. And Trump wants to slash the EPA's $8 billion budget, and the 15,000-strong workforce, says an aide who was part of the transition team. He accuses them of junk science on climate change. I would agree with that. This is the former head of President Trump's transition team at the EPA. His name is Myron Ebel, and he said he would like to see, personally would like to see the agency cut in half for a start. Absolutely. Let's go to 100%. Let's understand that it was Richard Nixon who gave us a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, who also gave us the EPA, and we don't need the EPA any more than we need a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. He goes on to say that he thinks that realistically, at least $1 billion of their $8 billion budget will be cut. So that would be 12.5%. I hope it is more than that. He comes up with the half figure because he says about half of the EPA's budget passes through state and local governments for infrastructure projects and environmental cleanup. He said that's something that can be done by the states. It's currently being managed by the states. I would like to see the states do all of that at the local level. Meanwhile, we see that the head of the Border Patrol, the chief there, has been fired. Now, this is Mark Morgan, who was just appointed a few months ago by President Obama. He was not loved by the Border Patrol Union, and an unprecedented move. If you remember, they endorsed Donald Trump. They were upset that they could not do their job. The Border Patrol Union, which endorsed Trump's presidential campaign, applauded the executive action of Donald Trump. They had been critical of Morgan, and Morgan had told Reuters that he held a morning phone call with employees to say that he was not resigning, but had been asked to leave by the Trump administration. In other words, he has been fired. The Border Patrol Council called him arrogant and a disgrace to the Border Patrol in an opinion piece published on November 30th by Breitbart. And finally, the State Department. The Washington Post on Thursday said there was a mass exodus of senior foreign officials. And David Wade, who worked for John Kerry, said it's the single biggest simultaneous departure of institutional memory that anyone can remember. That's incredibly difficult to replicate. What makes you think we want to replicate it? What makes you think there's any value to Benghazi, to the massive email leaks? Good riddance.
Something else Donald Trump has made it very clear, he's got a war on the media right now. In fact, he is not holding anything back because they have the gloves off and they're trying to paint him as a racist. And so this is the totally biased press. Again, he's speaking on Fox News. He said that the media is obsessed with painting him as a racist and his chief strategist, Stephen Bannon. Stephen Bannon actually exclaimed that reporters need to shut up and listen. And of course, they cut that quote so that it sounded like Stephen Bannon was saying that the press needs to just shut its mouth. So to just try to paint them as these racist jerks. But he was also referring to this recent Time report that falsely suggested that he had removed the bust of Martin Luther King from the Oval Office. Totally false. The reporter who was saying this didn't even ask anyone, hey, did you remove the bust? They were just noticing that it wasn't there, but it turns out it was behind the door, behind a Secret Service agent. So they didn't even bother to do their due diligence in their journalism to check and see. But what Trump is saying is that the focus wasn't on, well, where did he move this? Where did he move the bust of MLK? What the focus was on was at saying Trump is a racist. And then when it turned out that it wasn't true, it revealed that they were very wrong. Nobody even talks about that. Nobody even says, you know what, we're sorry, we were wrong. This was terrible. Shouldn't have done that. I mean, the guy immediately recanted his tweet, put it out there. But, you know, that doesn't get any traction in the media. What gets traction is, oh, my goodness, what a racist. He removed the bust of MLK. But one of the things that Trump is really going to upset a lot of people with is he is swiftly moving to undo everything Obama and his administration was about. Trump's immigration actions completely reverse Obama's open border policies. So this was 2 executive orders that were signed on January 25th. They constitute almost a complete reversal, again, of the Obama administration's non-enforcement and open borders policy. They will improve the physical barrier at our southern border to finally moving against sanctuary cities. These 2 executive orders put into effect a comprehensive program designed to secure our borders, implement interior enforcement, and reintegrate the assistance of state and local governments into federal efforts to enforce immigration laws. So not only do we have a politician, a president who is fulfilling his campaign promises, now it looks like we have a federal government that's actually going to be enforcing the immigration laws. Imagine that. Much unlike his predecessor, though. Let's look at this little flashback video where you actually have President Obama encouraging illegal immigrants to vote.
Of the millennials, dreamers, undocumented citizens, and I call them citizens because they contribute to this country, are fearful of voting. So if I vote, will immigration know where I live? Will they come for my family and deport us?
Not true.
Okay.
And the reason is, first of all, when you vote, you are a citizen yourself, and there is not a situation where the voting rolls somehow are transferred over and people start investigating, etc. The sanctity of the vote is strictly confidential.
Now, something that President Trump has been catching a lot of flack for is this, he keeps putting out this message that millions of people voted illegally. That was what helped Hillary Clinton win the popular vote. But now it looks like his argument might be bolstered by a recent study that shows that Clinton could have actually received at least 800,000 votes from non-citizens. This is according to political scientist Jesse Richman of Old Dominion University of Norfolk, Virginia. He worked with colleagues to produce this research on non-citizens voting. He posted that research this week, and they're basing this on national polling by a consortium of universities. They said 6.4% of the estimated 20 million adult non-citizens in the U.S. could have voted in November. He extrapolated that that percentage would have added 834,381 net votes for Clinton. And this means she would have collected 81% of non-citizen votes, which, yeah, maybe that 800,000 isn't that big of a deal, but this means that this could have put her over the edge. Non-citizens could have helped her win, carry a certain state or finish better than she otherwise would have. And Kit Daniels reports that this study doesn't account for the dead and fraudulent voters, which accounted for over 25 million registered voters during the 2012 presidential election. Little has changed since then. In fact, the population has even grown. So this was a report by the Pew Center on the States, finds that more than 1.8 million dead people are currently registered to vote. 24 million registrations are either invalid or inaccurate. And this is according to NPR. And the Pew study found that almost 3 million people are registered to vote in more than one state. So there you go. When President Trump says things like that, he's not just pulling this out of thin air like the media would like you to believe. And when they said, prove it, he said, there's going to be a major investigation. You just wait. And so yesterday, David Knight and I reported on the fact that the Mexican president is basically declaring war against the United States, saying that they're going to be using their 50 Mexican consulates in the U.S. to use them as ramparts to protect its citizens. But it goes even further than that. Now we have a Mexican senator actually threatening to stop fighting terrorism if Trump builds the wall. So now they're like they've been doing anything to stop terrorists or gang members from coming across the wall, coming across the border. Now they say, well, we're just not going to stop ISIS terrorists. How do you like that?
In case you haven't heard, Infowars has become the most influential media outlet in America. We're making freedom go viral. And now we are proud to announce a new weapon in the epic battle against the globalists. Infowars Prime, where you can watch live high-definition feeds of The Alex Jones Show, plus exclusive insider videos from the Infowars crew and behind-the-scenes action. Go to Infowars.com/app and download today. Infowars Prime is available right now for your iPhone or Android. You will have access to exclusive videos that you can't see anywhere else. And that means live coverage of events and breaking news on location as it happens. You can also take advantage of amazing deals from the Infowars store that are only available for Infowars Prime subscribers. That's Infowars Prime at Infowars.com/app. And if you can hear my voice, you are the resistance.